Okay, I believe we are recording. Yeah. So whenever you're ready, Gareth. Do your clapping business.
Hey, do we clapping thing, right? Right. 3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, welcome back to the No Code Rules podcast. I'm joined as always by Raphael, who will be henceforth be known as Raf.
You literally do that every episode. three syllables will be too much for people to remember.
I know. Just in case people are wondering what's going on.
And as always, we're in the illustrious company of Gareth, who is a coder by background. And I was going to do that thing again. Do you remember
Yeah.
X amount of decades.
Yeah.
Anyway, so how have you been? What have you been up to since the last episode? What's been going on?
I've not properly introduced you, really, have I? This is Raf.
Go ahead. Yeah, actually, let's have that again, please. Very much. Thank you very much.
Raf, Tooting's very own Raf. He is a non-tech founder who discovered no code and is very much into it. I hope that you've seen the previous episodes so that you at least get some background. If not, I think you've been very, very naughty. Right then, so let's crack on, shall we?
There's the man coming from the northern ditch somewhere.
What do you mean? Northern ditch? How very dare you? It's a very expensive northern ditch. I will have you know. This is my studio in the depths of the bowels of Greater Manchester, indeed.
Anyway, so what have you been up to since the last episode? What's been going on?
What have I been up to? I've been up to much mischief, as always. I'm a little bit under the weather. I've got a little bit of a cold today, so if I'm not looking my best, which I never do anyway, but...
blame hair and makeup.
Yeah. I've cleared the pharmacy of cold and flu stuff, so hopefully I'm medicated up enough. But onto no code, I suppose, rather than my personal health. I've been having a look at DraftBit. I don't know if you've heard of it or seen it. It's basically, well, they would argue it's not just for mobile apps, but generally speaking, it is. And I've been impressed. You know, I've looked at Flutterflow, and Flutterflow is fantastic. You know, we've all had a quick look at it, not in any depth, but I really like DraftBit. I think it's a real alternative to Flutterflow. I think, I've been impressed. Been impressed so far, definitely. How about you?
Yeah, I've kind of been working on my app. I've decided that in terms of my stack, Supabase is definitely going to be what I'm going to be using for the back end in terms of the database and stuff. So I've kind of been doing a deep dive in and actually having a fantastic time. Kind of had to brush up on my SQL, a newly acquired skill, but it's actually been really cool. Once you kind of get into it, it's really intuitive, and even when you start to get into the weeds a little bit. So I've been kind of working with views and then doing stored procedures, and then being able to kind of query those filtered views from my app in Toddle, and just kind of getting both worlds kind of talking to each other and connected and stuff, so that all the data is flowing and showing up in the way I needed to follow up. So it's actually been really cool. Really, what's the word? It's actually quite exciting. Using Supabase felt like coming home, which is kind of strange because I've never used anything like that before. But I just felt really natural and intuitive, So. Anyway, enough about us. We had promised and we had teased in the last episode that we would have a very special guest with us today, and I'm glad to say that in our green room, about to appear by the wonders of modern technology, we have. Oh no, I pressed the wrong button. Oh, hang on. There we go. Wonders of modern technology.
There he is, Stuart. CNN view and everything.
Hello. Yeah, we have Stuart Malt with us. Thank you so much, Stuart, for joining us. Who is, might I add, back straight hot off the plane, Eurostar boat.
Plane and train, a bit of everything.
Train, really. Yeah,
and automobiles, I would suspect.
Yeah.
There was one involved.
Back from the No Code Summit in Paris. So firstly, Stuart, thank you so much. Welcome. You're actually our first guest ever on this podcast. So thank you for for agreeing to kind of come on and kind of, you know, talk about what you've been up to and all that kind of stuff. So to kick things off, how was it? The No Code Summit. We wish we could have been there. We heard some fantastic things were going on. Just tell us everything that you experienced. How was it?
I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing. It was a huge event. Such a young community, isn't it? The no code space, but that you can just see the growth by being there. And you know, basically, it was just the best place to get stickers.
Right.
So if you need stickers, go to the No Code Summit, and you're sorted. But yeah, you know, it was just this melting pot of diverse ideas and tools and solutions for the no code space. It was just, there was such a buzz around it. There was the hackathons going on, the people doing those, through to all these tools and agencies, and then incredible talks happening. And it was a really fantastic event. And I think as a no coder, I'd encourage you to go next year. Really, I think it's just a great place to be and get those ideas. And you know, nothing really beats meeting people in person. So
that's what I was going to ask. I was going to say, was it a great opportunity to kind of put faces to names and network and meet other people and all that kind of stuff as well?
Yeah, massively. So everything. So, you know, there's the organization I've been trying to get hold of on LinkedIn for ages. And you know, the noise on LinkedIn, I mean, people, it's spam and it just goes. And how do you stand out? How do you get noticed? But if you go to the No Code Summit, you can just turn around behind you in the queue and go, there you are.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Anyway, you know, I sent you a personalized video. And but actually, for me, that really opened up an opportunity. And you know, I made a friend, I made a contact, and that's going somewhere. And that was just all over the place. And you know, and then I went in and I was like, I know you. Drop the name, and they were like, who are you? I went like,
yeah.
I've just seen you on social. Yeah, you stick out.
And
that's another conversation. And that was everywhere.
Yeah.
And then so it felt like you're in a real familiar community. But it was huge. It was huge. And I met so many new people. It was really amazing.
And if I'm not mistaken, you didn't just go like just to experience it, but you were actually doing something there as well with regards to what you've been building with Comnoco.
Yeah. So I was. So it was a bit of a last minute decision, bit of a last minute shock actually, to be invited to talk. So I had a very little amount of time to organize everything, including writing a talk. So that was fun because I'm not a seasoned public speaker. Wow. I wrote my talk. And it was great. It was a really good place to do it because the audience was obviously spot on, perfect. And not only that, but they'd chosen to come to my talk because they'd seen what it was about. So they were there ready to see what I had to say and learn. So that was really fantastic, giving a talk, and that gave me a little opportunity to give a sort of sneak peek of Comnoco, which is in private beta but should be going public beta next month.
Wow. And what's the theme of your talk? What you...
So the theme of the talk was how to build an app that scales to millions. Basically.
Right. Wow. And obviously using Comnoco as part of the solution.
Funny enough. But you know, I structured it so that really the first half of the talk, it could be Comnoco, it might not be Comnoco. I talked about how you architect solutions and why you separate things out and what you need to scale. And then obviously I moved on to present Comnoco, which we believe we built to answer those questions. So that was good. And also a big shout out to Supabase, who form part of the strategy really for no coders starting new projects who want to be able to have that platform to scale from. So yeah, the talk was around that. And I was stunned really because I had an audience, which was incredible. Had a microphone, which is very exciting. No one fell asleep that I noticed. I didn't try and scan the room as I was talking. And I had some really good engaging questions afterwards. So that was really great. The only sad thing was it was at the end of the second day and I had to run off to get my plane. And I actually had a little bit of a queue of people who wanted demos and I couldn't.
Right.
So it was really great. I know, you know, the the speaking program was relentless. So there were always at least 4 or 5 stages in parallel, and the choice for attendees, no coders, the community to go and choose what they want to see was incredible. And there was all sorts, from security and no code through to design and no code through to particular platforms showing off what they're doing. One particular founder, awesome rapper, started rapping.
Oh wow!
I missed it. I'm absolutely gutted. Everyone told me about it, and then he even told me about it afterwards. I was like, well, look this one up on YouTube. So it's a bit of everything. It was real education, entertainment, thought provoking.
So obviously you were invited to talk about that whole thing about scaling to millions using no code, and Comnoco being a part of that solution. So if anyone's just coming across Comnoco for the first time and don't know what Comnoco is, what it does, what the idea behind it is, why you created it, like what would you say?
I would say Comnoco is a platform that gives you a place to build your logic and integrations that's on your back end and separated from your database. So that you've got the choice of working with one to many databases, any database. Often businesses have data in more than one place. And it gives you the security as well, allows you to build your APIs, but you can also do brilliant things like create communications, PDFs, rich emails, hyper-personalized, all in this one back end. And we built it obviously to scale. So it's a great place to put your logic and keep it separate from your database. And for no coders, that means if you're working with Supabase, it gives you that ideal platform to help you along. So I met a lot of no coders who really do want to work with Supabase, and they're doing kind of like you are, like you mentioned at the beginning of the show. But then when they want to add a logic layer, they're finding they have to try and learn to write edge functions. Maybe they're using AI to generate these functions, but it's a real struggle because maintaining them and changing them is really difficult. It's great to ask ChatGPT to give you a lump of code, but once you've got that and it's in production and you try and maintain it, it's really tricky. And if you can write, as they are doing, other things in the other areas of their stack in no code, if you can do that logic in Comnoco, that really sort of resonated with a lot of people there. So that was really cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, from what I've had a play with Comnoco, and from what I can see is it essentially is trying to abstract out the requirement to code your own API. So, but as a layer between your front end and Supabase. Sort of Supabase is great, but just like you say, it's not for no coders, really, is it? It's
it's a dev tool, it's a dev platform, and that's what we partly tried to do, is bring make it a no code platform essentially.
Yeah. So essentially, then, if let's say I'm developing a front end in Toddle, for example, and I want to talk to Supabase, do I always go through Comnoco or just certain circumstances, or?
Yeah, and no, you don't need to, because Supabase automatically exposes all of its tables as API endpoints. So it's really, if you want to add that logic and integration layer to other things, say you want to generate a personalized itinerary for the travel company you're working for, and you've got the transaction happens, the customer presses button in Toddle, which buys it, that puts a record into the database, whatever it is. Then you've got a Stripe payment coming in. You need somewhere like a webhook that's going to receive that and handle your Stripe integration. That's Comnoco. You then need to pull information from your database about where they're going to build their itinerary, and on each day you want to check the weather forecast on another API. That's Comnoco, bringing that together. So you're pulling all this data together, this integration and programming layer. You can add business logic. Are they, like over 70 high risk travelers? Do you want to upsell them stuff? Maybe you call a third party API to be able to upsell them certain things on their holiday, airport parking, whatever it is. You pull this all together and you generate a PDF in Comnoco that you deliver in a personalized email that lists the passengers and stuff. That's the idea of Comnoco. That's the logic layer. Your data, sure, it's in your database, but those are back-end functions, and you can't integrate with all these APIs on the front end because you can't have your API credentials for your weather API that you're paying for just available in your browser for other people to just right-click, inspect, and use. So it gives you an idea of where the back end fits in and where we see Comnoco fitting in. But yeah, for the basic CRUD stuff on your database, you can use Supabase directly. That's one of the beauties of Supabase. So actually, no coders often they will be able to start with Supabase, and then when they want to go that bit further, we're there ready to help. That's the idea of Comnoco.
Cool. So, what was the motivation? What made you start down this road?
Down this road. Well, I have spent many years, hence earning a badge very similar to yours, I reckon, middle-aged Englishman. Yeah. I think I've spent a lot of years working in software, and specifically a real expertise in what's known in the trade as customer communications management, which is a fancy way of saying generating your phone bills in volume, your holiday documentation for tour operators. Christie's, the auction house, when they sell a big painting like a Banksy in a middle of a field in a marquee, and they need the invoice printed out because the person that bought it's got their helicopter waiting and it has to be printed within 7 seconds.
Like, I have that problem all the time. I don't know about
you too. Yeah, absolutely, me too. I put that system in to them. Every single bit of like PDF or paperwork or customer communications is done by me. So, and then big logistics companies, shipping companies, moving goods around the world, generating all that documentation from customs to bills of lading, airway bills, all of that stuff that moves, works behind the scene and moves. That was my area of expertise. And when I was working with that, I was working with a tool that I think it was definitely no code, but obviously going back as far as we go back, we didn't call that no code. It was incredibly expensive, crazy expensive. And I looked at it and I thought, so many people could benefit from this if it were a SaaS product, and SaaS was just becoming more and more of a thing. So I decided to start and go and build something really that focused on these communications. Along the way, I accidentally built a programming language, a visual programming language, and that brings you to Comnoco. Yes.
And actually, that's an interesting point, actually, because I've obviously had a chance to go and use Comnoco as well, and I think we were working through some email functionality because Comnoco comes with MJML built in for anyone with any kind of email background, or anyone who's looked into it. Very quickly, you realize how complicated it is to actually get an email to appear in people's inbox the way you intend it, because there's no standards to do with emails. So MJML obviously does a fantastic job. I think it has one of the highest deliverability rates out of all the kind of solutions out there. But Comnoco comes with that built in straight away, and obviously we kind of work through it in terms of putting it together. And I thought that was really interesting when you talk about a visual programming language in order to put all this stuff together. So someone like me, who doesn't come from a coding background, has the ability to still kind of put together what can be quite complex systems without actually having to write a single line of code.
Yeah, that's definitely the aim. Exactly that. So, and MJML it's scripting language, and it's just trying to move that one step back and make it more joining the Lego blocks together to create what we want. But what we tried to do in Comnoco is allow you to just peel back the layers and go deeper and deeper and deeper, but still doing these blocks, and you only peel them back if you need to. So that's kind of the guiding principle. But all driven because to create these communications, you need an API layer to send the data, and you need to pull data from multiple sources and transform it. And that's how the accidental visual programming language appeared on the scene, was solving that need for myself, for us.
I think that's where Supabase is lacking, is the ability to transform that data yeah, you can put it in there, you can retrieve it, but obviously, in other sort of back end things or all-in-one solutions, you have that, but Supabase doesn't, unless, like you say, you prepare to code edge functions and things. So Comnoco, from what I can tell, is exactly that. For doing that job, to transform the data, it's going in, it's coming out, and whatever else needs to be done. Now, from what I've seen, is you develop it with like blocks, just like you would with code. So that's kind of your visual programming language. Can you sort of elaborate what? Because I've come from a coding, as you know, a coding background. So I'm just trying to think how that happens.
So we tried to make it very visual, very no code. The idea is not needing to write, not even scripts, not even formulas like you would in Excel. The idea was to move away from that. But at the same time, we wanted to use and almost teach the concepts of programming, so how you use loops and stuff. So actually in Comnoco, you always build little functions. You're always building little functions that you can then reuse, and that's a programming concept. So you build things, and basically you're just building yourself your own Lego block that does something, and then you can essentially clone it whenever you want and use it wherever you want. So if you've got, like, going back to my documentation expertise, if you need to output something or show it to your front end that involves like a tax calculation that's complex, you might need to use that in 1,000 places. In Comnoco, you build the function once and then you can reuse it. So we've tried to approach it with the idea of programming, but making it very no code friendly. And that's why you define variables, which you then can set data to, set the result to, and we define input parameters and output parameters. So when you create this function, I want to take the number of items and the cost without tax, and then you return the total price or something. So and then the idea is that you put these blocks together, and in Comnoco we look after you, and they're typed. So you couldn't put a number where there's text. You'd have to find a block in Comnoco that converts a number to text. And then there's a slot underneath that you can put your number, and when you click on the number slot, you can see all the things you can do with numbers, calculations, etc. Or if you're on a text slot, you see all the things you can do with text, from, I don't know, base 64 encoding, all of that sort of thing. So we guide you by only allowing you to do what's compatible at any point. So really in Comnoco, dive in, click the buttons and see where it takes you. Obviously, it's great if you've got an idea to start with, so you've got some direction of where you want to go, but you can just play, because if you make a mistake, just delete the block, go back, do something you don't want to do. But the best thing to do is just click, 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 put them together, and before you know it, you've built your little, Lego Formula One car, whatever it is.
And actually, just picking up on that as well, because you obviously, by using blocks, the way Comnoco looks visually is very different to, say, some of your other competitors, and you've kind of gone with this like elements tree kind of feel, where you kind of see the blocks kind of unfold, and then you kind of uncollapse them, and everything is nested within each other. So other than it looking visually different, what are some of the other differences that maybe Comnoco does in terms of the way it approaches things relative to some of the other solutions out there that kind of come into this space of trying to be that layer between the front end and the database?
Interesting question. Well, just quickly visually, one thing about the way we do that is we've distilled it down to a tree structure. So whereas other tools are more flowcharty or cards with lines between them, personally I find that gets quite unwieldy, quite big off the screen in different directions, and you're always scrolling around. So in Comnoco, by having a tree structure, you can contract and expand and zoom in, zoom out to the data, and you can get a good sort of overview with a myriad of pathways, and it's all there for you. So just touching on the visual bit, but how we've done things differently, I think our technology stack is very different. So everything about us is on the back end. Even when you do things in the front end, we run it on the back end, which is actually as if it were running in real time once you've published your code. And our back end is built. It's built in a technology, built on programming language, Golang. But I mean, what that means is that it's very multitasking, very fast. It's very cross-platform. So actually, Comnoco is installable on your machine, whether on Windows, Linux, Mac, whatever it is, you can actually run Comnoco locally. It's not something we offer yet, but we will do. And likewise, it can be installed on premise for enterprise customers. And we've built it so we're not relying on cloud provider technology. We're not relying on AWS or Google Cloud for what we do. This is a standalone solution that truly scales by itself and can be just deployed and is deployed, you know, in our case, providing the SaaS platform for our consumers as microservices. So it's a different approach to technology. Most tools are quite centered around the JavaScript world and scripting. And
And then you mentioned as well, obviously Supabase being able to be that front layer that allows you to kind of, you know, benefit from the, I guess, what makes Supabase really powerful. But it isn't just Supabase that you can connect to Comnoco, is it? It goes beyond that.
No. Yeah. So I mean, like any good tool, obviously we connect APIs. API economy, that's critical. So yeah, you can get that data in and out of APIs, but we also connect to other SQL databases. So whether that's Oracle, PeopleSoft, and some corporate environment, or whether it's a Postgres database or a MySQL database or a Microsoft SQL Server database, Comnoco connects to that, and you use the data from that in exactly the same way you do. It makes it consistent and typed within Comnoco, so it brings it in, and a number's a number, and a date's a date, and you get all that functionality of Comnoco. So yeah, so it really does connect to pretty much anything.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, let's say that I'm somebody who hasn't got a technical background, doesn't want to learn SQL, but wants to use Supabase and maybe Comnoco to interface to that. Are the tools in there to help them do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you don't in Comnoco, when you're connecting to Supabase specifically, you can connect to your database and query your data without having to write SQL queries. So it's a visual interface. Say I want, you know, my directors table, give me a list of directors where the films were between these years, and it's all a visual interface, and you can click add, and you can add another sort of parameter or filter on the query. And what we're actually doing is building a SQL query, but to the user, it's just a very nice way where it's displayed. So, and again, it kind of teaches users the basics of SQL, because it builds these. So it's the screen builds it together so that the thought process is as if it were a SQL query, but the user would not know that, because they're just they're layering up a way to access their data. And that's the same for writing data in. You know, you connect it and say, I want to write data into my table, and Comnoco comes back as, great, well, you need these fields. You've got to give us a name, an ID, a year, etc. And you just put those in and run it. So yeah, so it demystifies some of the difficulty of working directly with SQL behind the scene. And then the beauty of Supabase, they have a fantastic spreadsheet interface to their database, and a point and click and add a field and choose it as a number or text way to build fields. So you don't need to know SQL to build a solution with Supabase and Comnoco, because those two combined are just perfect to get going as a no-coder. And then you've just got all the power to expand. You're not stuck. You're on a real database, a real platform that's with decoupled bits that you can use the best of breed. If you want to change database later on, if you want to change to code later on, you know, because it's decoupled, you can. You've got these separate parts. So yeah.
And can you just touch on something you mentioned earlier on about the security aspects of Comnoco? Because you mentioned that was obviously something that's spoken about at the summit, but just how do you deal with that whole kind of thing and implement it in a way that works for no coders?
Yeah, so with Comnoco, every API you build has to be inherently secure. So we secure it. So you can secure it with API keys. You can secure it making sure that your user is logged in your front end system and pass that all through to us. But we will gatekeep that API for you and only let your users in, or only let it be called if you pass those things you've set up. So for example, you could actually build an API in Comnoco that you sell access to. So you might not even have a front end. You might just be creating a service, creating your own API you sell. And you can create an API key for each one of your customers. And then when the customer stops paying, it gets revoked. And so it's always secure and gives you a way to own what's connected to your system and how it's connecting. And you can separate your work into different projects, different workspaces, and have different API keys or users that connect to each one. So there's security there, and also obviously in this need to connect to other APIs, you've got to have credentials to connect to those APIs. So we store those sort of hyper encrypted and only available to your workspace and never available to your users, and you can't even extract them from your workspace sort of visually. You'll never be able to see that secret once you put it in. You can overwrite it, obviously. And then we separate that. So you build once in your development workspace, and you say, here's the API key for my development API. But when you go to production, or to my development database, but when you go to production, you might want your production database, so it's different credentials. So they're essentially environment variables in Comnoco. You build once, and you say, when I press publish, it will do the same thing, but talking to those other credentials you provide.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, in doing a little bit of work with Comnoco, as you prefer to say, gotta get it right.
Do you know, there's something in that. There's something in what you're saying. I never realised it would be a tricky name, but it is. Everyone pronounced it differently. Everyone questions it. I think I'd like to say com is community, com is communications, com is no code. So those things, and people can make of it what they want, because who knows how the right way to pronounce it is.
Well, you come up with the name. It's
Comnoco. Yeah, it's Comnoco. I'm not going to go around enforcing that.
But he's in doing a little bit of work with it. It's seriously powerful. You can get that. You can sense it. But also, sort of, there's new entrants into the market who are kind of going for a much more kind of simplified approach. How do you manage that when you've been developing the UI with it, and how do you manage to keep that power in check to make sure that it's approachable, shall we say, for no coders?
Yeah. So since we're in private beta, we've started working on feedback from users to actually make the user interface easier to get started with and easier to understand. And we now got things like when you choose a block and click on a block, it's going to pop up and give you a contextual, 1-2 minute video. This is what it is. This is how it works. So you don't have to go and read the documentation that is there, by the way. But who wants to go and read that? So that helps, first of all. And secondly, on our roadmap is the ability to ask in natural language. I want to build this that does this, and we'll build the Comnoco tree for you with the AI. And then what you end up with is a maintainable no-code version of what you've asked for, rather than a dump of code that the AI has given you that you're going to struggle to maintain if you're not a developer. So, but touching on the fact there are others, it's great to have competition in the marketplace, and it's interesting to see how we all approach it from a different angle. I'd say Comnoco is definitely the one that goes to that really granular layer, real detail if you want, but tries to also keep it simple enough if you don't want that. The thing is, if you do build on Comnoco, you know that you've got the ability to go further afterwards. Where if you build on something that is higher level, it might be good for you now, but you might find soon that you're going to have to migrate. You have to migrate your logic. You're going to have to disrupt your customers, your business processes, whatever it is. If you build on a platform that has all-in-one with the database included, it might be great. It might get you going, but as it scales, can it scale properly? What if you want to talk to other databases as well? What if you need to move your database because you need something that will back up to a point in time? You can't afford to lose a second of your customers' data. By building on Comnoco, you have those options available all the time. So yeah.
And then in terms
how
of
do we handle that? a lot of I think messaging, and we help people understand that, and hopefully people will want to try Comnoco and choose Comnoco for those reasons.
And then on the back of that, like if people wanted to kind of explore what Comnoco can do, where are you at in terms of, I think you mentioned you were in private beta, so is it close to kind of going to public beta? Or
yes, we're hoping to get into public beta next month, which would be very exciting. So people, if you do want to use it, please do go and sign up to the wait list on our website. You might be able to sneak into our private beta before, but if not, you'll be first to be notified when we go into public beta. And it would be great to have you on board.
Tell them they have to use the password "man from the northern ditch sent me."
Who would that be?
Well, listen, Stuart, thank you so much. I really appreciate you kind of coming on. Thank you also for sharing about the stuff at the summit and stuff. Really excited to see. Obviously, both of us had a chance to kind of work with Comnoco and see how seriously powerful it is and stuff. So wish you all the best. And if you're watching this and want to check it out, sign up to that private beta and use the Northern Ditch password, and you might even get on sooner. Yes, Gareth?
And yeah, don't forget to go to that show next year. It's absolutely fantastic, and it's really good community.
Yeah, definitely.
And,
I think if we hadn't have had other things on, I think both of us would have made a little bit of a visit. You never know, me and Raf might actually even meet, because all we ever see is each other's
yeah, like I say, it was amazing meeting people in person, and yeah,
brilliant. And we're gonna get some stickers as well, you know.
Well, you can have some Comnoco stickers. You're not having the rest of my haul. I'll tell you what, you can have a bubble sticker.
A bubble. No, you're all right. Ship is sailing.
I'm all right. Yeah, if it was bubble, I'd be tempted, but not bubble. No thanks.
Toddle, hang on. Let's just see what I got here.
Did you get toddle stickers?
Hey,
there you go.
Stickers, guys. I have a Toddle T-shirt now.
Do you as well? Oh wow!
I'm still waiting for mine.
Yeah,
I'm still waiting for mine. They've been promising me in a post for weeks. Where is it, guys?
Someone figured out what I was.
No code hero.
No code hero.
Love it. Well, again, thanks a lot, Stuart. Really appreciate your time, and obviously people can go and check it out, and we'll catch you online.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
No worries.
Right, no worries. Thank you, Stuart. Take care.
Bye.
Good conversation, I think.
Yes, I really enjoyed that, actually. You know, I thought you were particularly well behaved.
Well, I don't try, but I felt I had to be on my best behaviour there. But, no, I mean, Comnoco is one of those platforms. I don't even think that we've even lit the touch paper on no code and services. He's ideally positioned, really, especially for people who are really looking to scale. I think it's going to be a huge tool in the no code space. I just hope plenty, especially if you're using Supabase, which is really flying at the minute. So I'm just looking forward to seeing going to public beta and people, give it a go. And it's. I mean, we tried it fairly early on, and it's seriously powerful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Cool. All right. So what's next? What's the next episode? Who you got on? Who you lined up? Bring out your back. What's that? Your black book? Your pocket book? Who you got?
The black book of no code people. Well,
you could have filled it up if you went to the summit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we should have. I regret not going now, actually, but
sounds like it was good, actually, didn't it?
It does. Yeah, it does really good. Now, you never know. I might have actually got my Toddle T-shirt because I don't think it's ever arriving. But talking of which, I'd love to get the Toddle guys on. They've said they'll do it. I don't want to hold the feet to the fire or anything, but
hint, not judge, wink, wink.
Yeah, I'm not putting any pressure on.
If you're watching,
yeah,
we could just clip this part up and just drop it in the Discord somewhere. Say, hey guys, look at this.
Yeah. Look, we've done that. How would you like to be the second? Don't miss this train. Don't miss this train, baby. But there we go. Anyway, cool.
All right, been an absolute pleasure. Until next time.
Until next time, Raphael, it's been an honor and a pleasure. I will see you soon. Never what's the saying? Always a pleasure, never a chore.
There you go. Likewise. All right, take it easy. See you in a bit.
So now.
Cool.